What's up, everybody? My name is Tori Franco. This is the What the World Needs podcast, episode 23. And I have a lot of things that I've been wanting to talk about. I've been in a funk lately, as you guys know. And I've kind of been talking about it. I did an episode where I did like one angry rant, but I decided not to post it because I just don't want to put negativity out there into the universe. I don't want to screw myself over. But in this episode, I do want to talk about suicide. That's really kind of what I want to talk about. Depression, suicide, my experience with everything, and just kind of reach out, I guess. I was doing a live stream the other day, and somebody told me that I should do an episode on this. So, lo and behold, here I am. I feel like it is fitting because I myself have gone, obviously, like many people out there in the world, have struggled with depression my entire life. Recently just kind of coming out of probably one of the deepest, darkest depressions I've ever been in. And I want to talk about that, but I also do want to talk about where I'm at right now for a second as well, because I feel like if you struggle with depression, you know that even when you feel okay, you're not completely out of the woods, because it's something that kind of just lays dormant in your soul, in your whatever, in your psyche, and something triggers it and sets it off again. And lately I have been in a rut, nowhere near where I was. I'm in a good place foundationally. I'm in a good place. I don't think I'll ever, to be quite honest, get to the place that I was in, just for the simple fact that I feel like I've grown way too much spiritually and mentally and emotionally so now I feel like now I'm able to recognize the signs when it's coming on and be able to just, like, when I do recognize it, take a step back, be self-aware, realize what I need to do, and communicate effectively. Still working on that. But for the most part, I would say 85% of myself knows what to do as far as communicating. Communication is the key. And that kind of leads me into the whole realm of suicides. And, you know, we've been seeing a lot in the news. Kate Spade, what's his name? Anthony Bourdain committing suicide. And one of my subscribers asked me what I think about it. And I don't want to really touch on them specifically in that sense, but I do feel as though having these events and these people be publicized, their suicides publicized, and so many people, you think of all the famous people out there who do and have committed suicide, or have been at least said to have committed suicide. I mean, nobody knows what happens behind the scenes, but really, I'm not going to go into conspiracies, but if you're taking everything at face value, you're seeing some of your role models essentially committing suicide. You got Chester from Linkin Park recently. Robin Williams was a big one. And now Kate Spade, I feel like, is huge. Anthony Bourdain, they're two, really huge people out there, influential people committing suicide. And it makes you wonder what has gone on in these people's lives to bring them to this point. And I think I can definitely speak on it a little bit. I don't necessarily feel as though I was suicidal in the worst of my depression. I do feel as though I had very intrusive thoughts that could have led to suicidal thoughts if I did not take the proper steps to try and find treatment. And those thoughts consisted of, when you're depressed, those normal run-of-the-mill feelings of worthlessness, telling yourself that you're worth shit, that nobody will ever love you, that you're all alone. These are things that you tell yourself in the midst of a depression. And I do feel as though and I said this on my live stream. I'm going to be repeating a lot of things that I said on that live stream. But I do feel as though people like me and maybe somebody watching has been through a deep depression and gotten through it. It's our responsibility as people who have suffered from it and will continue to suffer from it, but know how to get through it. It's our responsibility to, I feel a sense of responsibility, especially with this platform, to reach out to people who are experiencing that. And at the very least, just let them know that they're going to be okay, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And some more of those intrusive thoughts include, and this is where it really kind of peaked for me. The thoughts obviously start at, I'm not worth a damn. I suck at everything. Everything I touch turns to shit. I'm ugly. I want to crawl out of my skin because I'm fat. Just really essentially beating yourself up to like a bloody pulp. And then the thoughts of, then you enter into this really dangerous, vicious cycle, where the more you mentally harm yourself in that way, the more you feel like shit. And the more you feel like shit, the more you harm yourself. And then it just goes all the way back around. And you just get stuck in this cycle of essentially mentally abusing yourself. The thoughts for me also got to a point where I would be driving, and I just remember like driving and thinking to myself, like, what if I just jerked the wheel right into the pole coming up? Like, who would come to the hospital? And would anybody even give a shit? And maybe it would be easier to die because of the pain that I'm feeling. And I think people don't understand, if you've never suffered from depression, you don't understand why somebody would commit suicide. And I am in no way, shape, or form justifying it. There is no justification. You have to get help before it gets to this point. You have to take the proper steps, whether that's going and seeing a therapist, going and seeing a psychiatrist to prescribe medication, going on a diet, getting out in the sunlight. I mean, essentially, you should be doing 3 out of the 4 things 100% of the time. Medication isn't always needed. There are a lot of people out there that are on antidepressants that don't need to be, because they're not clinically depressed, or maybe just a life event happened that caused them to be depressed. And you don't need medication for that. I've suffered from depression. I'm very sensitive and prone to depression in my life. And I didn't need medication. I actually refused it. I mean, it was offered to me, or actually many therapists. I'll give you the story about my therapists another day. But I shopped around because good therapists are apparently a dime a fucking dozen out here in these streets. And 2 therapists that I went to before I found the one that I actually liked, 2 women therapists, practically one tried to like manipulate me into taking medication. And I actually got to the point where I couldn't tell the truth anymore, because she was trying to pressure me so much into taking medication. And I just did not want to. I did not want to take medication. That was not what I wanted to do. That's not who I am. All right, love you. I'm not the type of person to want to rely. Maybe call me stubborn, whatever. But I mean, it worked for me. I don't recommend everybody doing that. If you need medication, take it. But we all know ourselves. If you don't feel like you need medication, if you feel like you can do it, or you want to at least try to do other ways before you resort to medication, do it, because here I am, you know. And people wanted to prescribe me Xanax plus antidepressants. I just didn't want to be a zombie. You know, I wanted to be in control of myself. I wanted to be in control of my depression. I didn't want a pill to control it. So anyway, getting off the beaten path here. What was I saying? I don't even know. What was the point of what I'm saying? Oh, the point of what I'm saying is if you're suffering from depression, if it starts, I mean, it can, I'm not saying all depression is different. It hits everybody different. Sometimes you just get sucked right into the dark hole and you're just 1 minute you're kind of okay going through the motions of life, and then the next minute you're in this dark hole tunnel with seemingly no way out. And no matter what your situation is, if you're suffering from depression, trust me, I understand. It's hard to get out of bed. It really is. Like, nobody gets it. If you've never suffered from depression, you don't understand. If you've suffered from depression, you don't understand, but it is immensely difficult to get out of bed when you are depressed. It's hard to just make your bed when you're depressed. Like, every little activity that we take for granted, making breakfast, just little things like that, taking a shower, it's just like, you have to, like, when you're depressed, you have to plan it ahead because your energy is just so drained, right? And I get that. And my depression got to the point of, like, physical pain. I'd never, ever experienced that before. I mean, the last time that I got, like, really badly depressed was when I was probably from like 13 to about 16. I was on and off depressed. And then it kind of just went away for a while and then crept back in I would say around 24. And it lasted a couple of years. And then a big event happened in my life around 26, 27. Yeah, no, 26. And that completely threw me into the worst, darkest parts of it. But I completely understand that if you're suffering from depression, it's difficult. It's hard. It's hard to think straight. It really is. It's hard to make one coherent decision just because with the depression comes the anxiety. I became an agoraphobic, and I still struggle with leaving my house sometimes, going places that I'm not used to going to. I have safe places. That's like where I'm at right now in my life. If I haven't been there before, I will definitely get anxiety. Absolutely. Not as bad as I used to, but yeah, it definitely happens. But regardless of all of that, right? Regardless of the anxiety, regardless of the physical pain, regardless of the mental and emotional pain, regardless of the lack of energy and the fatigue and everything that you feel when you are depressed, regardless of all of that, you have to take the proper steps to get help. Whether that you have to speak to a professional, you have to go to therapy. Even if your therapist is just sitting there listening and not really responding, I mean, I would say that's probably not a good therapist, but even if that is what your therapist is doing, you have to talk to somebody and release it and get it out. I was on the hunt. It took me close to 6 months to find a good therapist. I went through 3. 2 were absolute shit, trash motherfuckers. And the last one was awesome. And I actually only just stopped seeing him in January just because my insurance changed. But other than that, I mean, I would still be going to him today. Either way, the point is you can't just sit by and do nothing. You have to accept that you have depression, and stop trying to say that you're fine when you're not, and you have to take the necessary steps. That's what I would say is number one. It's depression is this rabbit hole that you just fall into. And a lot of the times it feels like a tunnel, a dark, lonely tunnel. Dark, cold, and lonely. And scary. And you feel like nobody's there for you, and you feel like you're the only person in the world going through what you're going through at that moment. The reality of the situation is you're not alone. There are plenty of people out there, more so than there aren't people out there who have dealt with this. And you also have to understand that tunnel that feels endless, when you're in the midst of it, it feels dark and scary and gloomy and like it's never going to go away. It's never going to end. But there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. It's so cliche, I know. But just work with me, okay? Because it's the truth. It's the truth. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I don't know why I just had a stroke for a second. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if I would be where I'm at right now, just mentally, I would have said probably not, no. Because at that point, I was in the worst state of my entire life, like mental state. And again, I still struggle. I'm not out of the woods. And if you're prone to depression, understand that even if you're starting to feel better, you're not fully out of the woods. But you also have to be self-aware and understand what it is to look for when it comes to depression. You know, I know the signs. I know when I need to step back and do for me and walk away from certain things. Even if it's going to stunt my growth as far as musically or with social media, my mental health is first and foremost. My health overall is first and foremost. And then comes everything else. Then comes making people happy. Then comes everything else. I have to take care of me first. Because if I don't take care of me, then I can't give to everybody else. You know? So I know that now. I didn't know that 2 years ago. And so I was just doing the most. I was doing everything. Plus, I wasn't doing what I love to do. I had given up, not given up, but maybe in my mind, I'd given up music and pursuing my dreams. You know, I thought that I wanted other things. I was at a job I hated. I was not taking care of myself physically. I was probably in the worst shape of my entire life. I was giving in to so many outside negative forces. I was giving myself to those forces, not just giving in, but giving myself and my energy to those forces, feeding into things that I should not have been feeding into. These are things you have to, in your own life, be aware of when it comes to depression. And we can all sit here and say, oh, depression, you know, suicide is not the answer. No shit. But when you're in that state of mind, sometimes, yeah, it does feel like the only answer. It feels like the only way out. I'm here to tell you, whoever you are, if you are feeling those feelings, it's not the only way. It's not a way out, period. It's not. It's never the answer. It's just not. And I'm here to tell you that the light at the end of the tunnel is there, you know? Think of it. If there's a tunnel, if it is a tunnel, if depression is a tunnel, right? Every tunnel has to have an entrance and an exit. There is an exit. Your tunnel may be a little bit longer than somebody else's tunnel, but the fact of the matter is there is an ending to that tunnel. And the ending does not ever, 100% of the time, is never suicide. Never. Instead of me talking about suicide, though, I'd much more rather right now talk about some things that I did or that I've heard done to people close to me that worked. Again, I've probably said this in another podcast episode before, but I think it's important to be repeated because I can't stress it enough. Simply changing my diet, eating healthier, putting healthier, more whole foods into my body helped my anxiety and depression tremendously. In fact, I would actually say, and this is crazy, I never thought I'd be able to say this, but I would actually say that 80% of me feeling better had to do with me eating healthier. And me, because, I mean, if you think about it, just think about it. You know, when you're unhealthy, your blood sugar levels are all out of whack. Your hormones are all out of whack. All of the chemicals in your body are imbalanced. And of course, you're not going to feel good if you're not feeding yourself good shit. And I'm not saying never have pizza ever again in your life, but if you are sensitive to depression, you're prone to depression like me, you may want to just consider eating healthier. And that eating healthier, for at least for me, consisted of cutting down on carbs, which sucks, by the way. Fucking sucks. Cutting down on carbs, high fiber, lots of fruit and vegetables, good sugars, cutting down extraordinarily on sugar. Processed sugar is the devil when it comes to well-being. You can look it up, Google sugar and its effects on your mental, and let me know what you get, because I could tell you processed sugar is probably one of the worst things that we are eating. And in our Western diets, it's all over the place. You go into you go into a store and buy a Snapple, and one Snapple has 18 grams of sugar. And women are only supposed to be having 27 grams of sugar a day. And this one drink has 18 grams of it. So just being more mindful of what you're putting into your body. It starts with physically treating yourself good or well, and then mentally and emotionally treating yourself well. If you got to cut people off. Don't isolate, though. There's a difference between isolating and just filtering out the shit people in your life. There's a huge difference. I was isolating. It's like a body that's been stricken with cancer, right? And this may not be popular opinion, but whatever. When my very good, wonderful friend of the family, who's like a brother to me, was diagnosed with colon cancer, I did a lot of research, and I printed out a bunch of articles on alternative healings and stuff like that. He went through chemo and all of that naturally, but not naturally because it's not natural, but whatever. I researched alternative diets. So when I was doing research for my good friend of the family who had cancer, a lot of the research said that a body that has cancer, when it's given chemotherapy, well, this is just a known fact. Chemotherapy kills off cancer cells. But what does it also do? I just burped. It also kills off the good cells. So, yes, you're killing off cancer cells, but you're also killing off good cells at the same time, which is lowering your immune system and making you more prone to other things. And that essentially a lot of the times is what people who start out with really low immune systems and then have chemotherapy end up dying from, right? The analogy I'm using here is don't cut, just because you're afraid of the shit people, don't cut yourself off from the good people, the ones that you know are not going to harm you, right? Don't kill off your good cells. Don't kill off the good people in your life because you want to protect yourself from bad. That's counterproductive. That's not good. That's not going to help you in any way. It's going to make you feel even more alone. And I can, again, speak from experience because I did that. You could ask my best friends, Bobby, Jay. They didn't hear from me for months. They didn't see me for months. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on. They just, I guess, thought, they're dudes. They're not like that. They just thought that it was status quo, like I was just doing my thing, doing my life and living my life and whatever. But I just had severely cut myself off from them. And even now that I'm kind of going through this little rut thing, I have a tendency to just go ghost on people. Like I will literally be like, yeah, I'll be there. And then literally just go ghost because my energy just gets drained. Right? So I'm noticing myself doing that. And now I'm trying to push myself out of the house and be around the people that are good. The people whose energy is good for me. Their vibes are good, if that makes sense. I hope I'm not getting too off the beaten path. But I don't even know where I was going. Where the fuck was I going with this? I don't even know. Oh, don't isolate. Filter. That's it. I ended up, it's an art. It's a science. There's a science to this shit. To like cutting off people. Especially if you're somebody like me who just wants to please everybody. There's a science and an art form to letting people go. The art of letting go. That is the truest shit you'll ever hear. There is an art to it. Because it's tough. Your ego or whatever wants to convince you that certain people are copacetic in your life. How do you say that word? I don't know. Don't give a shit if I said it wrong. Something tells you like that you shouldn't be that's not the answer. Because you're so afraid that if you cut these 2-3 people off or stop hanging around these couple people that you're going to lose everybody. That's not the case. That's not the case. Because the beautiful thing about energy is that it has to fill a space, right? It has to. So if you make room, you leave, these other people, these shit assholes aside, you leave them, you're just making room for the good people to come into your life and infiltrate your life. Even if that's cyber, like through online. The internet's a wonderful thing. I can say a lot about my Filipino followers and my bigger YouTube channel that has 31,000 subscribers. You guys have gotten me through a lot that you don't even realize. Just live streaming, comments, mainly live streams. On nights that I felt like I had nobody, I would go live and just connect with everybody and not feel so alone. And that really, really helps. So the main thing is connection. You have to connect with a therapist. You have to connect with good people around you and disconnect from the shit. That's huge. You have to feed your body good shit. Drink lots of water. Get lots of sunlight. Vitamin D is directly correlated to depression and anxiety and feeling like shit. That's why you hear so many people in the wintertime when the weather is colder. People suffer from seasonal depression. You need that. Like biologically, our bodies need it. And that helps a lot. I now make it a point, especially now the weather's nice. I now make it a point to, even if I'm not doing anything, I sit outside my backyard alone, read a book. You have to feed your mind. You have to feed your body. You have to feed your soul. Go to church if that's what sets your soul on fire. I'm not really into religion. I'm more of a spiritual person. If you see my chakra beads, I'm more of a, instead of praying, I'll meditate. Same shit though, Whatever it is you want to call it, or whatever it is you believe in, that helps. Feeling part of a community, part of something helps. I'm telling you though, just the diet alone, and I don't even want to call it a diet at this point because I've been doing it for the last year and I'm never going to turn back, to be honest. This is the physically the best I've felt in probably 10 years. Physically. I don't want to crawl out of my skin. I don't hate myself for that, so that's cool. But the physical aspect of depression is very real. And I had to give up coffee because coffee would bring on my anxiety. Actually, I think I should still be not drinking coffee, but fuck it. I love coffee. I'm okay now. It doesn't give me like crazy anxiety. But I had to give up coffee for a year straight. It sucked. That sucked. Not drinking coffee, having to drink tea every time. Like, wow. That shit sucked. Just kidding, it wasn't that bad. But these are, and again, I'm not gonna sit here and say that this will work for everybody. I can honestly say getting on a good, healthy lifestyle, healthy diet will absolutely drastically change a person's depression. Absolutely. Cut out the alcohol. I know it sucks, but cut it out. Don't drink that shit. Stop numbing. That was something that I was doing. In the beginnings of my depression, I got to a point where I was like, fuck it. I don't care about myself, so I'm not going to treat, like, this was literally the thought in my head. It was, I'm not going to treat myself okay because I feel like a piece of shit, so I'm going to treat myself like a piece of shit, so I'm going to eat this fried food. I'm going to drink this bottle of wine to the face. Oops, I just kicked my camera. I'm gonna drink this bottle of wine to the face and sit alone in my room and cry. That's the worst thing you can do. And I didn't give up alcohol. I cut down. I was numbing, which is a dangerous game to play. Don't numb. I don't know. I just feel like I can say this shit because I've done it. I've been through it. And I'm not sitting here saying I feel the best that I could absolutely feel, especially not now. Like, I'm in a little bit of a rut. But the fact of the matter is God damn it. The fact of the matter is that this shit helped, like, a lot. I could owe my feeling better to just treating myself better in every way. That's all you gotta do. And again, not for everybody. There are people who need to be on medication and need to be medicated. I get that. But for me, and maybe for a lot of people, it may not be necessary. Sorry, had to plug my computer in. It may not be necessary, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not completely against medication. I'm not one of those crazy people out there that, never take medicine. If I get a headache, I take a fucking Tylenol. Like, not completely against it. But when it comes to antidepressants, it's a known fact that antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications are being overly prescribed. I went to a doctor, my primary care physician. Hey, if you're watching, my bad. I'm not going to say your name, but a couple of years ago, maybe like 2012, I went to my doctor for a physical. Nothing else, just a physical. I wasn't in the best state of mind because I was going through a breakup at the time. And I had been crying, of course, because I think like me and this person had broken up like 2 or 3 days ago. And I was just crying, of course. And I had broken blood. I was crying so badly. So embarrassing. That I broke blood vessels under my eyes. And it was just blotchy. And like, if you ever see my face blotchy, I'm not going to say it's because I've been crying, but it's because I'm fucking stressed. My stress level is directly translated through my skin. My skin will let a bitch know when I need to relax because, yeah. So anyway, I had broken blood vessels and my face was just very blotchy. And I went through my whole entire physical. And my doctor looked at me and was like, mind you, this is a 3-minute conversation we had. He looked at me and he was like, what's this on your face? Like, this is at the end of the doctor's appointment. And I'm like, oh, it's, he's like, it looks like you broke blood vessels. And I looked at him and I'm like, well, is it possible to break blood vessels from crying? And he was like, yeah, that's possible. Why are you crying? And I was like, oh, I'm just going through a breakup right now. And without hesitation, this dude took out his prescription thingy. And he was like, okay, here. And wrote me a prescription for an antidepressant. Not once did I say I was depressed. Not once did I say I needed it. Didn't ask for it. I didn't come in like, oh, I'm really in bad shape. I was just like, yeah, dude, I've been crying. Like, what do you mean? Of course I've been crying. Like, and now you're gonna just, without doing any type of psychoanalysis, just give me antidepressants? And I took them because a lot of the times we listen to these doctors and we take their word as gold. And again, I'm not one of these people that doesn't trust anything a doctor says. I will listen to a doctor, but it's a known fact. Doctors are human too. And it also is a known fact that the pharmaceutical industry, especially here in America, runs the doctors and dictates what the doctors do. It's just a known fact. Everybody can admit to that, right? So at that point, how old am I in 2012? What was that? 6 years ago? 23. I was 23 years old. And I didn't know any better. So I just was like, okay, he thinks I should be on antidepressants. Fine. I literally took a week's worth of these antidepressants and I felt the effects of them. Maybe it was in my head because they say it takes a month for it to get into your system. I think maybe I was on them for 2 weeks. But I was getting like tremors, night terrors, night tremors, not terrors. Night terror is something different. But either way, it wasn't pretty. And I was like, fuck this shit. And I stopped taking them. And from then on, I was like, never, ever again am I going to take antidepressants. Again, they've worked for some people. They've worked for a lot of people. But these doctors, especially if they're not psychiatrists, and even if they are psychiatrists, they'll prescribe medications, antidepressants, and then not follow up with the patient or not care to try and see the patient. Antidepressants are, and this is what my psychologists told me, the ones that were trying to shove this shit down my throat, when I specifically told them, no, I'm not taking any medication. and they tried to pretty much manipulate me and use psychological tactics in order to get me to take them. She said to me, and in this case, she's right in the sense that this is how it's supposed to be. Antidepressants are not a life sentence. That's what she said to me. Probably verbatim. That's what she said to me. That antidepressants are not a life sentence. The whole key is for them to get you to a level of like homeostasis in the brain, balance. And then once you're feeling okay, they're supposed to wean you off. So whether you're on them for maybe 6 months or whatever, you're not supposed to be on them for years on end. My sister was. My sister went through a deep depression years ago and was on antidepressants for like 7 years straight. That's not supposed to happen, that your body becomes dependent on them. So a lot of the times it's just lackadaisicalness of doctors and sometimes patients who are just listening to these doctors willfully. And I'm getting off the beaten path here. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're depressed, you need to be taking the steps to try and find some more peace of mind. I was proactive. I was very proactive. I fell into this deep depression and I said to myself, I'm going to do what I got to do to try and feel better. And that it started with me just trying to be on a spiritual journey with myself, learn some things about meditation and acupuncture and whatever. And then it ended with what really ended up helping. I mean, the spirituality aspect of it helped too, and whatever. But you can't force a spiritual growth. You can't force a growth, period. Mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. You can't force that shit. I was trying to force it because I was like, okay, if I get more in touch with like my spiritual side, maybe I'll just kind of snap out of it, or maybe I'll know how to heal myself of this shit. It didn't work that way. That shit happens over time. Like spiritual growth happens over time. And it did. But one of the main contenders or the main fighters of my depression was my diet. A lot of people that I know swear by acupuncture, swear that like couple sessions of acupuncture snap them right out of it. So maybe you want to try that. The main thing is there are ways out of depression. There are always ways out of depression. Did I just say ways twice? I don't know. There are always ways. Got it. There are always ways out of depression. Always. Always. Suicide is never one of those ways. It's never, ever going to be. Even if you got to take medication. Even if you're just too drained to try anything else. Even if you're too drained to pick up a book and read a book on meditation. Even if you're too drained to meal prep and push yourself. If you just don't have the strength in you, 2 things you need to do. No, 1 thing you need to do. No, 2 things. 2 things. See a therapist and see a psychiatrist. I did both of them. Psychiatrists will really just sit with you for maybe 15 minutes straight and diagnose you after 15 minutes and then prescribe you a medication. But you may need medication. So again, the point is, I cannot stress it enough. I've been going for 45 minutes now, and I could go for another 45 minutes. There are ways to cure or get rid of or get control of depression. Because again, it never goes away. It is not something, if you are prone to depression, chronic depression, it's not something that just goes away. I know I will live with ups and downs for the rest of my entire life. And that's fine. But I know also that I'm not going to let those downs be what they were. My downs are going to be like where I'm at right now. Just a fucking rut. That I maybe need to take a step away for a little bit and be nicer to myself. Walk away from certain things, certain pressures. That's it. I'll be fine. I know it. Because I have the will to be fine. That's the thing. Positive thinking too, you know. I hate to be one of those people, but positive thinking is so fucking important. Showing, just being grateful for things in your life. You may feel like you have nothing to offer anybody. I'm a lot of right now, I would say at this present moment in time, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm not good enough for any of this shit. Why am I going to make a video? You know, why am I going to do any of this? It's just that self-sabotage bullshit that I'm going through. But you have to take a step back and look at things in your life that make you grateful, that truly fill your heart with love and happiness and joy. And you know those things. You know those things. Even in the deepest depression, one of the best things that I did or had were 2 little baby nieces. I can't tell you enough. Like, I'm probably going to start crying saying it, but in the worst of my depression, just going to my sister's house, playing with my nieces, looking at little kids and being around that energy and escaping, but also feeling the love from them, the love that they had for me regardless. I felt I had nothing to offer. I felt I was the ugliest thing on the face of the planet, the disgusting piece of shit on the place of the planet. The face of the planet. And seeing them look at me in a different light really helped. Like, those kids will never understand how much they fucking saved me in a sense, you know. It's the truth. So if you have a dog, my dog too. These little things in life that, well, they seem little and we take them for granted on an everyday basis, but you shouldn't at all, because these things are what you should be grateful for in your life. There is always something to be grateful for. If you were born with depression or being prone to depression for whatever reason, there's always something. You know, I had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Okay, no, that's shit. No, that's shit. I have eyes. Like, I had to resort to like the little things. There are things that we take so much for granted in this life. We take so much for granted. If you can walk, guess what? Not everybody fucking can. Whether it's because they're paraplegic or they have MS. Not everybody can just get up and walk briskly and easily. No, that's not a thing. There are people out there that would look at you getting up and walking quickly and would feel envious because they can't do it. So guess what? Be fucking grateful for that. Like, hello. You're waking up in the morning able to see. Okay, my vision kind of sucks. I need glasses. Sue me. But still, I can see. I'm not blind. That was one of the things that I was like, okay, I'm fucking grateful for that. Like, all right, let's go with that, you know? And at first it felt like, okay, you fucking idiot. But then it was like, no, like there are people, when you really start to reflect on it, there are people out there who have never seen one day in their entire life. They've never been able to look at a sunset. They've never been able to watch a concert or watch a TV show. They've never been able to look the person that they love in the face, in the eyes. They've never been able to do any of that. You think of that and you're like, wow, I can do that. You start there when it comes to gratitude. You start at the basic shit. I have food in my stomach. That's another thing. There are people starving out there. There are people homeless. There are people drug addicted. It's a cliche statement, but there's somebody out there always who's got it worse. Always. And our job being on this planet is to not only help ourselves, but to help those people too. Giving back really, really helps a lot. It makes you feel like you have a purpose in life. And even if it doesn't have to be giving back monetarily, just, it doesn't even have to be going with like a soup kitchen or something. It could just be giving somebody the best piece of yourself for that particular day. Opening the door for a stranger if you leave the house. Calling your grandma and telling her that you love her randomly. These things, like, when you're depressed, these things are fucking crucial. Crucial. Sit down. Have a conversation with your grandmother, your 86-year-old my grandmother's 86. God bless her. Go have a conversation with your 86-year-old grandmother and listen to her rant about the same 3 stories that you've heard 30,000 times already. But listen to her talk about your grandfather who passed away before you could meet him. And look at her face when you go to her house and you see her smile and her face light up because you're walking in that door. Then you realize, wow, this person loves me. This person, their whole day has been made because of me. Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that we need to be focusing on if you're depressed. And again, not everybody's family life is wonderful. That's the whole reason why people fall into these depressions. Maybe you were molested. Maybe you were, and I'm sorry if this is triggering somebody. I really am apologizing for that ahead of time. I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but these things are so fucking taboo. Nobody talks about them because everybody's afraid. But like, no, it needs to be spoken about. It needs to be communicated. We need to be facing these issues head on and come up with solutions for them. So maybe you were molested by a family member. I know family members that were. Regardless of what has happened to you in your life, it can be turned around. Regardless of what has happened to you in your life, it can be turned around. It may be harder for you. It may take longer for you than somebody else who maybe had more of a normal life. But newsflash, nobody's fucking life is normal. Shit happens. Shit happens in life. I also started looking at myself like a little bitch. Like, oh, you're wallowing in self-pity when this person over here just got done with their cancer treatment. And here you are whining like a little fucking bitch. And again, if you're depressed out there, I'm not saying that to you. This is what I would say to myself. And that would actually give me, I'm the type of person where I need it real. Like, I need it real. You need to give it to me real and raw, as much as I'm going to hate it. So that's how I would give it to myself. It sounds so bad. If somebody's like just walking in the room and listening to that statement, they're going to be like, what are you listening to? Anyway. Yeah, no. I didn't dance around it. I was like, look at you, you dumb. Not dumb. I didn't do that. I was like, look at you, you little whiny ass bitch. It's the truth, though. Then you look at other people who have it better than you and you're like, look, that person's probably never suffered a day in their fucking lives. Born into money, born into all this shit. But you don't know. The fact of the matter is you don't know. Everybody's, again, another cliche term. Everybody is fighting a battle you know nothing about. That is the truth. Especially when it came, like I am living proof of that. I was depressed for years before I ever even admitted or realized that I was depressed. I felt like I wanted to die on the inside. Like I'd wake up every day, go to work, smile in everybody's faces, joke around like my normal self, be an idiot, be a jackass. People would say to me, like, you're just the fucking happiest person I've ever met in my entire life. I don't know how you keep this attitude constantly. What they didn't know was that on the inside, I was literally dying, like cringing on the fucking inside. Nobody realized that. The only person who truly has ever seen that like real raw side of me is Alexis. Like genuinely has seen like the darkest like parts. Nobody else has, really. I mean, I made a video one time in a hotel room. That was pretty bad. I had to take it down. I thought it would be a good idea to tape myself alone in a hotel room in the midst of a mental breakdown. By myself, again, alone. Like I had driven 3 hours. I didn't tell anybody where I was going either. Like, I think that's what like scared the shit out of my mother. Because nobody knew where the hell I was. Nobody. And I literally snuck out of my house. I literally snuck out of my house at 28 years old. Didn't tell anybody where I was going. Drove 3 hours to Connecticut. Booked a hotel by myself. Cried a lot. Ordered food. That was a way of like coping. Just like ordered like a bunch of Italian food. I was gonna drink my feelings. Thankfully, I have a level head enough to not do that by myself. So I didn't drink. I brought all my music equipment with me. I didn't write. I wasn't able to. I was like too like in that place. But don't do that. Find one person in your life that is going to be there for you. Find one person that is a good support system and foundation for you, and latch on. Not latch on like a leech, but like hold on to that connection. Let them know what's going on and reach out. That is the main thing. You have to reach out. You have to reach out. Let people know what you're feeling. Communicate. A lot of the times with depression, it's literally just from a bottling up of emotions. You get to a point where, again, I can only speak from experience, but for me, I got to a point where I was just yesing everybody to fucking death. And every single time I did that, I just spit. Every single time I did that, I was giving another piece of my well-being to these people and entities and these things, whether it was a boss or a coworker or anybody, a family member, whatever it was, you just, okay. You're just yesing on autopilot. And before you know it, you've literally just withered away your entire mental. And you don't even realize it. Because now you've gotten to a point where you're so numb that you're just on autopilot. You're just living on, like, it's not even living. You're just existing. That's where I'd gotten to. That's fucking dangerous too. Because at that point, you don't realize that you're depressed. You just think that you're in your, like, schedule, your routine of shit. And you just go and keep going. And you wake up every single day at the same fucking time. You do the same shit every fucking weekend. Over and over and over again. And you think, like, yeah, this is fine. This is status quo. Because there are little things in between that do make you happy. It's okay. Like, when you're depressed, you smile, you laugh, you're still yourself, but overall, you're just not in the element. You're not overall okay. I remember just so much, man. Like, I remember going away in the midst of my depression, and every year I go away with my family every Labor Day weekend to this place we've been going to since we were kids. And I remember going away to this place like during that depression and just drinking my face off and literally having anxiety to the point where I couldn't fucking see all weekend long too. Like, it never went away. And nobody fucking knew about it either. Nobody knew. My mom, my friends, my family, nobody knew. I remember that. Like, it was probably 2 years ago. Sitting there, like, literally having to hold on to the table because I felt like I was going to pass the fuck out. Don't do that. Don't do that. Couple things wrong there. Drinking like that. I mean, okay. It wasn't I felt, honestly, not going to lie, I felt the best when I was drunk because I wasn't thinking. And that was the numbing. But that's not a good thing. That's a temporary feeling good. Then when you come down from that, you get to where I was holding on to a table about to fucking pass out because you're having anxiety so bad. And you can't say shit to anybody because either nobody will understand or everybody's just hung over themselves. So I can just name, oh man, I went to a Mets game with my family and had to, like, pretty much leave early because I was having a really bad anxiety attack. That shit doesn't happen to me anymore. And I can definitely thank dieting, eating healthier, making healthier choices, cutting down on alcohol. I still drink. I still have a good time. Hey, Ma. She hates when I drink. But I still do all of that. I just don't do it excessively. That's the key. But As far as emotionally, if you are suffering from depression, I know this has been a very long episode, and that's okay. I have a lot of things to say about this topic. I know I've been all over the place. I apologize. I'm just kind of coming off the cuff. Like, that's what I do. I don't think about these things before I sit down and do them. I just say whatever the fuck is on my mind. So I apologize if this is all over the place. This is as real as I can get right now. Reach out to somebody. I'm here. Like, hey, I'm here. I mean, I'm kind of going through my shit right now. I'm by myself, but I'm always here to at least say you're not alone, and you're not in your suffering, in your struggles. And I am a believer in God and spirituality, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm a believer in energy, in the universe, all of that. I may not be a religious person, but spirituality is my shit. And I'm a believer in God, and I believe that we're all here on this planet for a fucking purpose. We were put on this planet for a reason. And don't you want to live out that reason? Don't you want to realize that reason? Don't you want to know what that reason is? It may just be you were put on this planet to love the person that you marry. That could be. You were put on this planet to show that person that love. You were put on this planet to feel that love from that person. Whatever it is, you're here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. Leaving before the party's over. It's like literally, it's like leaving before the party's over and realizing that your favorite cake came out right after you left. Like, nah, the best is yet to come. Like, seriously, the best is yet to come. So many people have come back from so much. There's a guy on the internet. I don't know his name. Don't know the recipe. I'm just saying he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, lived to tell the fucking story. That's his purpose. That was his purpose. His purpose was he needed to live. Don't try that. Again, if you're suicidal or if you're going through some shit, don't try that. But his purpose was to not try and commit suicide. His purpose was to get past his depression so that he could inspire others to stick around. I don't think he needed to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge to realize that, but he even said in midair, like as it was too late, he realized, holy shit, I want to live. And nothing is as bad as, or nothing is worse than death, or death when it can be prevented. Nothing's worse than that. Your pain will subside. You do have people that love you. And if you feel like, if your family life is shit, or you've gone through some pretty harsh situations in your life, there are 7 billion people in this fucking world. Sometimes your family is not your family, and that's okay. But there are good people on this planet. People who will love you and respect you and treat you the way that we all deserve to be treated, with love and compassion. I guess if I'm gonna end, because I've been rambling for like an hour now, but the main thing is treat yourself good. At the end of the day, you are all you got. If you have nobody else at this point, and that's just your situation, not because you're isolating or whatever, treat yourself fucking good. Not good like, especially if you're depressed, not good like I'm gonna go do some drugs or go drink my pain. That's not good. That isn't good. It may feel good for the time being. Trust me, I've done it. It may feel good for the time being, but that's not good for you. Do things that set your soul on fire. Put yourself around people that set your soul on fire. Travel. If you got money, fuck it. Quit your job. Go travel. Figure it out. Live your bliss. Whatever the fuck that means. Whatever it means to live your life to its fullest potential, do it. Do it. I left a really, really good job with benefits and a pension and really good pay to do this, pursue my dream. Some people may have looked at me, especially in the beginning, as a friggin' idiot. What are you doing? But now all the potential and the things that I've created from my depression, like my depression, that's the thing. That's the crazy thing about it, is it didn't feel like it at the time when I was going through the worst of it, but being depressed saved my fucking life. Because you start to think like, holy shit, I got nothing else to lose, right? I've lost everything. I feel like shit. I can't feel any worse. So might as well take this opportunity to fucking live out my dreams. I'm a little impulsive. Again, don't do what I did. But it just so happened to have worked out for me, you know? A lot. But the moral of the story is life is beautiful. Life is wonderful. And the beauty of life is the downs sometimes. That's when you learn the most. Really. My most drastic change in my life, my most drastic growth in my life came from depression. It's when I learned the most about myself. I learned the most about the people around me. I learned the most about what I want, what I should be doing for myself. I learned the most about my surroundings, everything. Like, legit. So, just understand, again, hindsight is 20/20, but you won't have that hindsight if you resort to killing yourself. When I was in the deepest, darkest realms of my depression, I did not think that I would ever be saying that point in my life is what changed me and made me who I am and made me grow to the person that I am. I would have never, if you would have asked me 2 years ago when I was in that physical, emotional distress state in my life, if I'd be sitting here saying that, like what I'm saying, I would have been like, you're fucking crazy, shit in a hat, bye. But the fact of the matter is it's the hindsight. It's the looking back. When you get out of that tunnel, when you get out of it and overcome it, when you slay that fucking dragon and you can put your foot on top of it and look at it and be like, bitch, you're my bitch now. That is when you feel that sense of like, this made me a better person. I hope this makes sense. I'm not saying like everybody needs to be depressed in order to like be a better person. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can take the shit and if you just fucking cling on for as much as humanly possible, cling on, find the strength somewhere. Find the strength. Take it from other people. But you have to do it. Because when you finally make it out, you come out a butterfly. That's just that fucking tunnel of depression. That's just the cocoon. When you make it out of that, you spread your wings. That's the fucking truth. It really is. So many good analogies. Damn. I should make one video where I just make analogies the entire time. Oh, man. And now, honestly, even when I do feel alone, I'm okay alone. I really am. Like, not 100%. I have my days. But I'm okay with myself. I'm okay hanging out with myself. I like myself. I think I'm pretty funny. I was driving, funny story, actually. For anybody who wants to laugh, if you're listening still at this point. I know I've spoken a lot. I was driving today, and I went to my P.O. box to check my P.O. box. And I'm driving back, and there was some person who wanted to turn and like kind of hesitated a little bit. I had to stop and let them turn, and they were hesitating. And I'm just sitting there in my car, and I'm talking to this person like out loud, and I'm like, "No, you can go. No worries." And they turned, and I'm like, what did I say? I'm like, "You fucking shit-stained balls." And it's probably not funny to anybody else, but like I just remember sitting there like, and I just started bursting out laughing as if there was somebody in my car and I was hanging out with somebody, like laughing like that. Like, you're an idiot. I'm at that place. The point is, I'm at that place now where I have fun with myself. You know, you have to make it. But again, that hindsight is 2020. And if you commit suicide, if you succumb to the depression and allow it to take over and win, you won't be able to have that hindsight to look back and be like, wow, now I'm where I'm supposed to be. So just remember that. Anybody out there is going through some shit. I know this has been a long episode. I encourage you, please, I hope you've listened to this whole thing. It may be boring for some people, but truth be told, somebody out there needs to hear it. And if you're depressed, if you're going through some shit, just know you're not the only one. You will get through it. It will end. And it never, ever, ever under any circumstances has to end with suicide. That's it. That's all I gotta say. My name is Tori Franco. This is the What the World Needs podcast. Be good to yourself because you fucking deserve it. Whoever the fuck you are. I love you all very much. Until next time, stay real, stay smiling, stay wonderful. Peace out, everybody.